Well, it was quite the weekend for Liverpool. No better man than Mark Lawrenson to talk to you about it. Mark, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm all good, thank you.
What kind of a
You?
hangover do you have today as a matter of interest?
I have got a hangover, but how do you know I've got a hangover?
Well, because it was a big weekend and I'm sure you were celebrating.
All right, yeah, I'm in Mallorca now, so I was.
Let's focus on you just for a second there. Totes emosh?
Say again?
Were you totes emosh?
What's that mean?
It's what the kids say when they're like, very emotional. It's called totes emosh.
Oh, right. Well, as you can tell, I'm not down with the kids, so I have no idea. No, I know I'd made the decision ages ago, so I just didn't tell anybody. It was actually, they're going on about 25 years, and it's actually, I think my first gig with the BBC was 31 years ago, and would you believe it was a radio game, and it was Peterborough United 1, Liverpool 0, a massive shock. So some game to start with.
Had you already finished playing when you started, or were you still playing when you were doing a bit of radio work?
No, I was finished. I think it was about 91 or something. No, I'd already finished. So.
And did you love it straight away?
Yeah, probably did. I'd had no training. They just said, come and co-commentate. It was. Over in Britain, it's Radio 5 Live. They do all of the football, but it was Radio 2. I think even in those days, so they hadn't kind of progressed to Radio 5 Live at the time.
I know ITV got the highlight rights very early on in the Premier League years, but I'm fairly sure that you and Hansen were the double act when the Premier League was kind of peaking or starting to come through, and the money was starting to come through on the BBC, which was, great timing on your part and on the pair of your part, and that you were very firmly established as main Saturday night football show being watched by millions.
Two main idiots. Yeah. Well, listen, don't forget Trevor Brooking. There was three of us. So I came and joined. I think Jimmy Hill basically finished, and then it was Trevor Brooking and Al, and then I was like the third person. So obviously we used to rotate and stuff. So it was a right place, right time, and as I saw from Saturday, some of the bloody shirts I used to wear on the telly were just mad. But hey, a fella used to write into me every week, absolutely slaughtering me every single week. And he said, and the Gokwan had just arrived on the scene. I think he's the fashion guru, isn't he, or something? He said, I'm going to get you an appointment with him and all that. It was so funny. But he wrote to me every single week, and you just go, wow, get a life.
Did you ever have that appointment with Gokwan?
No.
It's not too late. That would be. I think everybody would watch that now, Mark.
No, you're all right, boys. Honestly, I'm fine.
He did a series How to Look Good Naked, didn't he?
Yeah.
Now it's more cookery stuff, so you'll be all right.
Yeah, well, both. Listen, I'm stuffed on both completely. No chance. I can't cook anything.
Well, listen, congratulations on a great innings. Most people get a couple of seasons and they shuffle off, but you managed to keep it going for that length of time. That says something.
Yeah. It was good. It was fun. It was Tony. We had Tony Blair on one week and everything. He was great, him actually. But he couldn't remember his. I don't think he couldn't remember what his first game was. Well, he knew it was Newcastle. He couldn't remember who they played against. But I suppose we gave him a bit of leeway because he was the Prime Minister at the time. He had probably more important things to think about.
All right, doubt it. Did you do predictions? Did you do predictions against Tony Blair?
No.
Who's the
predictions have only come in I think the last 10 years or something.
Who's the most high-profile person you've gone predicting against?
I think I did Schwarzenegger, Will Ferrell, quite a few of the Americans who obviously knew absolutely nothing about it. But they must a bit like myself. They must have had a film or there's loads of music guys as well been on there and everything. So obviously just to promote stuff, which is totally understandable. But yeah, and Schwarzenegger swore at me. I think he told me to F off, as a bit of fun, because he's a blue, isn't he? He's an Evertonian, but obviously they bleeped it out. The BBC being the BBC bleeped it out. So, as you know.
For anybody who missed it, you were asked, what's the main difference kind of between nowadays and your time? And you talked about the teetotal footballers today, but it was different in your time. And I think the story involved a famous goalkeeper.
Bruce Grobler, yeah. It was just one of those many things. So when they asked me the question, I suddenly thought, crikey, what shall I say? Because there's so many you couldn't really repeat. But he was nuts, as everybody knows. Good goalkeeper, but he was nuts. But in those days, I think we used to go to Southampton. It'd be 6 hours on a coach. So as long as we drew or won, we get wine and beer on the way back. You take it from under the coach and bring it up to the seats and everything. And being stupid footballers, we only had one bottle opener. And so we started off, we got the beer and the wine, and the boys are playing cards and all those kind of things, killing the 6 hours and what have you, and the music's going. And suddenly everyone's gone, who's got the opener? So we couldn't find the opener. To this day, I don't know where it went. So they went, well, we're absolutely stuffed. We can't open the Budweisers or whatever they were. So Brucey actually said, don't worry, I'll sort it. So the first thing he did, I didn't have enough time, obviously, to ramble on the telly on the Saturday to say the first bit, which was he opened the beer with his teeth, which I think loads of people, I've never done it, but loads of people have done it. It wasn't a great shot, and we just looked at him and just thought, well, he's nuts anyway. And then his famous words were, I've got a better one than that. And we said, what are you on about? He said, I've got a better one than that. And we said, what? He said, watch this. So he put the beer bottle in his eye socket and twisted it, and it opened and it cut the top bit and the little bit there. And I think, and we're all looking at him thinking, oh my God, he's not really just done that. And I think it might have been Hansen, might have just went, well, you don't need your eyes, do you, the way you're playing at the moment? And on we go, mad, absolutely bonkers. Could you imagine that now? Alisson did that on a, oh my goodness me.
Yeah, his peripheral vision no longer any good, which would explain some of the goals flying in from odd angles. Talk to us then about the penalty shootout. When the game reaches that point, what's your level of confidence that it's going to be successful for Liverpool? And does that waver at any point through when it looks like maybe this isn't going to go their way? Yeah,
absolutely. Well, it's 50-50, isn't it? I don't care who you play against, any team. It's 50-50, and you don't know. You don't know what your goalkeeper's going to do. He might sell this thing, I'm going to dive for every single one, or pretend to dive, or all those kind of things. So I have to say the standard of penalty taking nowadays is really, really good. And, when you look at them, the goalkeepers actually make relatively few saves. So it's your heart's in your mouth, in it, when they take them. I must admit, I'm delighted that Tsimikas scored, because I know from just obviously being around the club and working for the TV channel and stuff, they absolutely love him, and he's a bit nuts. I think he's a bit Brucey. He's a bit nuts. He's just one of those lads who's always like hyper and everything. So they'll all be delighted for him, certainly. And by the way, he can play right back or left back if you need it. And every time he comes in, it just looks really easy to him.
Maybe it's a coincidence, but it's funny that it's like the off-Broadway players, like it's him, and the last penalty shootout, it's Caoimhín Kelleher, who are getting the praise on the day, and who everybody seems really, really very happy for. Like, look, they've just won a trophy, so obviously they're going to be happy, and maybe we read too much into the body language and the celebration afterwards, but like that unity of purpose, that group, it does seem really very together.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get a good dressing room with outstanding players, and you've got trophy-winning teams. It's easy as that. I mean, in the morning on Saturday, I was actually at Wembley for about 10 in the morning. I mean, what's that? Nearly 6 hours, nearly 7 hours before the game started and stuff. But Liverpool do this thing where they came to Wembley, got off the bus, and just walked around the pitch. And apparently, I think it's a little bit kind of stretch the legs without, too many people around, but also a little bit of superstition, I would have thought. And it was like they were just going out for a morning stroll. Well, they were going out for a morning stroll and just acclimatising themselves with whatever. And I think obviously Klopp leads the way, and they're all laughing and joking, walking around and all those kind of things. And you can just tell with teams when they're all kind of in the right, sort of pulling in the right direction. And I mean, certainly Liverpool have got that at the moment.
Did you feel Liverpool played well over the course of the 120 minutes?
All right. I mean, when it started, I thought, crikey, they're going to win 3-4 or something like that. But I think that I can't remember a cup final like that where there were so many misplaced passes. When you consider the ability of the players, I just think it kind of petered out a little bit. And then you get to the part where it's, you don't want to lose, do you? You don't want to be the idiot that makes a mistake, whether it's an open goal or defensively or all those kind of things. And I think in the end, and it was inevitable. It was going to extra time and pens, basically. There wasn't that many clear-cut chances, were there?
No, it was obviously Luis Diaz is the main threat throughout the game. It looks like the person that can do the most amount of damage to Chelsea anyway. And like, I mean, we've spoken to you in the past about just what an incredible signing he's been, but it does seem that he's. I know Salah's off the pitch, but it does seem almost at this point that he's Liverpool's most potent threat when Salah's out. And we don't know what the length of that absence is going to be, but maybe for Southampton tomorrow night, maybe for this weekend, Diaz is the person you're putting all your hopes on in that attack.
Yeah, I somehow don't think that Salah or Van Dijk will play tomorrow at Southampton, because you wouldn't. I don't think what they've got is serious, and probably if it was a Champions League final tomorrow, they'd be playing. Well, not probably, absolutely certainly. But I wouldn't mind betting Klopp might just leave them out, because obviously, he can go with the Conte and Matip partnership, and anyone else can come in and play, obviously, instead of instead of Salah. So, yeah, I would. But I just heard you say before. I mean, they would still have a team good enough to beat Southampton, I would have thought. And if they don't, well, they don't.
It's interesting that you say that if there was a Champions League final tomorrow, they would definitely play, because I don't know, just again, we don't know what the full extent of the injury is, but it just kind of feels a little bit reminiscent maybe of 2019, and obviously Tottenham being without their main attacker for that final. And in hindsight, maybe Pochettino wouldn't have started Harry Kane. In hindsight, again, this is possibly a very, very different situation. But is there anything in that about that kind of that recent example of putting a reputation before a player's actual fitness?
No, I think it's just the fact that, I mean, they're tired. That's one thing. They played so many games, and normally I never give them any stick for whatever. But they are tired. You have to give that to them. So I think Klopp would probably think, you know what, is it really worth taking the chance if he plays Salah and Van Dijk? And what if they aggravate what they've got? So I think it's just a precaution. But that's why I say if it'd been the Champions League, finally, you play your strongest team, don't you? You forget about everything else. It's secondary.
I also think that there's a difference this year in picking a player who you have a doubt about in the final, and that you've got 5 subs to use. So, if they do have to go off injured, you can use the full range of your squad. And so, it's worth that risk when we're talking about those players. If it was kind of an average player in your team, you'd be like, well, I'm going to replace him with an average player. But we're talking about the best striker in the world and the best centre back in the world, so you got to pick them.
Yeah. So that, as you say, the beauty of the 5 subs, etc. And I mean, Klopp's talked about this lots, but this I would say in all my time that 81 I joined Liverpool, and all that time since, this is definitely the best squad the club's ever had in terms of strength of depth. I mean, they've 2 players for virtually every position. And before you shout at me, I mean, Joe Gomez can play right back instead of Trent. Obviously, wouldn't be quite the same, but he's still a very, very good player. And everywhere you look, of course, Tsimikas can play right back as well if you needed him to. So, but everywhere you look, you'd say, the cover's excellent. I mean, there just doesn't seem to be a weakness. And I've said to this before with him, with Klopp, it's just, this clever thing of just having everybody together and saying, to a player, look, you're not playing tomorrow, but you're going to play on Saturday, whenever the next game is. And so you don't get anybody knocking on your door saying, why am I not playing? So, it's all right having a really top squad, 20-odd players, all vying for position, but keeping them happy is difficult, but he seems to be able to do it.
For the Champions League final, if Van Dijk is fit, who do you think will be his central defensive partner?
Well, you see, I'm and Matip, but it's looking like Conte. Conte seems to play in the cup games, seems to play in Europe. So, and he's got better and better and better. I just think my thing with Matip is that I just think he gives you a little bit extra. He gives you everything that Conte gives you, but he'll come out with the ball and he will sort of engage midfield players, certainly the Madrid midfield players. And I just think, it makes it a little bit easy for your midfield players because a little bit more space because they're drawn to this guy who's coming through the middle and dribbling. So that's the thing. But listen, there's not a big difference between the two of them.
It was nearly the perfect weekend when West Ham were 2-0 up against City.
Yeah.
If they could just have seen that through, then it would have been ball game back on. So Riyad Mahrez ends up missing the penalty that would really have won the league for City. In all but name.
He's done it. He's got previous, hasn't he?
He does. He's also been, I think, a big game performer for them. Somewhat underrated in that galaxy of stars. But is it important? Is that your point important? I mean, it certainly keeps Liverpool dreaming.
Yeah, it keeps them dreaming, but I think we all expect City to win, and even though, as you said before, that you'd expect that Liverpool would win it at Southampton, even missing some of the top players, you just never ever know, do you? And I, as I said to you before, I never really give people that, we're tired, and all those kind of things. But they actually, the last few games, they've looked a bit leggy. People like Salah, etc., who just started to look a little bit leggy. And when I say leggy, just without that real sharpness that makes all the difference. And Southampton are one of the teams you never know what you're going to get from them, aren't you? It's their last game, obviously, at home as well. So I think they'll certainly give Liverpool a game, certainly. And if there's any free kicks, as we know, outside the penalty area, your man Ward-Prowse is brilliant at them.
Unless it's 9-0, in which case they're due a 9-0 this season.
Yeah, they haven't got one. I did the 9-0 at Old Trafford last year. They probably are, but they've got a good manager, actually. I think he's a good manager, Hasenhüttl.
Is there anything you saw in Manchester City's performance yesterday that would give Liverpool hope?
No. No. Let's just go no.
Okay.
They
were 2-0 down.
I think you're right, though, right? And so I think
2-0 down, but they come back.
Yeah, and should have won it.
And they've got no defenders, haven't they? So, but I mean,
you say that, but they'd Aki on the bench, right? And I actually think that he gets a bit of a free pass for the building of the squad. The depth on the bench wasn't good enough against Real Madrid. There were a lot of kids on the bench, and sure, this is the whole point of having the world's greatest academy of all time, apparently, and investing all that money in the coaching and buying all the best young players in the world to come to the Man City academy. But they still were young players who had no experience. And again, so he had Fernandinho, who's leaving at the end of the season as a centre back yesterday, with Aki, who we keep getting told is ready to step up but isn't trusted. I just think that sometimes Pep, because he's Pep, gets forgiven any of the errors where the squad isn't good enough.
Oh no, he does. He does. I mean, Aki's a decent player, but he's not top, is he? So, how old's Fernandinho? He's nearly 40 soon, isn't he? But if you really think about it, is that if you play against Manchester City, for most teams, you probably get 30% of the possession. So if you think about that, then you have to score. You have to score with your 30% possession because they will have 70. They will have the ball, and generally, you're all like, it's 4-5-1. You're sat in there, and you're trying to make it really, really difficult for them. So, but no, I just think the fact they were 2-0 down and they come back, I wasn't surprised by that because they're just such an outstanding team.
And Steven Gerrard and Philippe Coutinho won't be able to do enough between them to get a point for Aston Villa on the final day of the season.
Well, I was at Villa Park on Tuesday, and to be honest with you, Coutinho, I didn't really see him. The game passed him by a little bit, but I know he'll be against I think with Coutinho against any team outside the top six, he'll be outstanding because he'll get a bit more of the ball, and obviously, you know, he's very, very good at it. But against the big teams, I just felt he was a little bit of a non-entity, to be honest with you. But I understand why they've taken him.
Yeah, and they've ended up getting a reasonable deal for him in the end. Just a quick word on the relegation situation, because it looked like at various stages we knew what was going to happen. You know, 8 weeks ago we would have said Norwich, Watford and Burnley are going down, and then Burnley went on their run and looked like they were getting themselves out of trouble because Leeds were in free fall. And then at the weekend, Leeds just managed somehow to dig something out and now have a point advantage over Burnley, who play Villa midweek before the final game of the season. So... and Everton, of course, looked like they were going to be okay because they've only got Brentford. Just don't get a man sent off in the first half against Brentford. You should be okay. And I don't know. All of a sudden, it's right all in the melting pot again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just thought Leeds were going to go laterally because they're playing angry, and you can't play football. You know, you can't play angry football. It doesn't work for you. And I mean, you know, if you look at is it Aliens sending off James, was it got sent off as well? And you look at them and you just kind of think, well, they've got that wild look in their eyes. But I didn't see yesterday. I hadn't realised for a long time. I just thought obviously we're getting beat by Brighton. I thought just stay at 1-0. So that mean that last minute equaliser was a breath of fresh air for them. But it's one of them, isn't it? I mean, they could all go, as in anyone from those teams could go. And I somehow once Burnley stopped the run, I kind of thought, I wonder now if actually, you know, it's levelled off a little bit and they might just go. But don't Burnley have Newcastle last game at home? Is that right?
I'll tell you exactly now. Burnley.
I think so. I mean,
yeah.
Newcastle playing tonight, but I think, and you know, if you were told beat Newcastle at home, excuse me, last game and you stay up, that would be somewhat of an incentive, would it not?
Yeah. So look, I guess it's any of those teams at this stage could still get sucked into it, and it's hard to make any one of them favourites under the circumstances because.
Well. Yeah, and you don't. I mean, we keep. You know, we're talking about sending offs and all those kind of things, and we've got VAR decisions that will come into play. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure that you lads will know. I seem to think this season I have never ever seen so many late goals in the Premier League or the old Division 1 or whatever it was. It seems to be almost every week there's a 90+ 6 minute equaliser goal, whatever. So. That's an interesting stat. I don't do stats, but that is an interesting one. I mean, how does that work?
Is it just because everybody's shattered? Probably,
yeah, probably. But I mean, shattered or loss of concentration, maybe. But it is unusual. I mean, look, Brighton had a spell, didn't they, where they kept scoring very, very late, and it wasn't once or twice. It was like seemed to be 5 or 6 or 7 times in a succession.
Yeah.
It does kind of feel like this is the first time we've hit kind of like or about to hit a lull in club football since July 2020. Like it has been a long time coming, but it also kind of makes you think that you'd wonder if, you know, the Premier League at the start of next season will maybe have a different look to it. Like, I mean, we often get bogged down in the here and the now, and Manchester City and Liverpool being so amazing and so far ahead of the pack, but with an actual proper off season for the first time in a couple of years, you'd wonder actually could there be a shift at the top of the table, maybe in terms of other challengers, other people who might make it a bit interesting at least next season?
No, I don't see it.
Okay.
I really don't see it because, I mean, I think they need too many players. The teams you're talking about, so we're talking Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, aren't we? Basically, I'm too early for Newcastle, although they will improve, but it's going to take them a while to get anywhere near. So, no, I don't really see that. And I mean, you know, talked about the depth and the quality in Liverpool's squad. City might add a couple more. You know what they're like. They've obviously taken your man, and that's going to be interesting to see how they play with Haaland, because I think when you see a lot of his goals, there's a lot of green grass between him and the goalkeeper generally. City don't really play that way. They have so much possession and they play little rinky-dink passes, don't they, in and around the penalty area. So that's going to be interesting to see what he does. I mean, he's going to score goals because he can and he's a beast. But it'd be interesting to see how they cope with him and he copes with them, and especially with Guardiola, as you say, sometimes does make the odd strange decision in terms of selection.
What's the ceiling for Conte Spurs if he's got an actual off-season to work with then? Champions League football, if they get there with a squad that's already pretty strong. Like, I presume they'll be looking at Chelsea at least saying, we can be better than you next season.
Yeah, I would think so. And obviously Arsenal also. Arsenal's still a bit skittish, aren't they, as we know. And Tottenham can be. But I'm told that the players actually really, really like Conte. And there doesn't seem to be anybody that doesn't. And they really believe in him. So the problem's going to be what the chief executive's going to give Conte in terms of money to buy players and bring them in, isn't it? That's always the thing at Tottenham.
And whether or not he'll be there. So it's going to be very...
Conte?
Yeah.
I think he'll be there. I actually get the impression that he's grown to like it. I think maybe when he... Did he only sign for, I don't know, 18 months or
18
something?
18 months, yeah, I think so.
Right. So I think he's grown to like it. I think when he first signed, I was a little bit like, he's thinking, well, I'll do this for a while, and then if something else crops up, off I go. But and I don't think it's easy working with Daniel Levy, but they must have some kind of relationship. And I think the head of recruitment is Italian, is he not?
Yeah.
So there's a buffer there between Conte and Daniel Levy. I just think sometimes Conte says things just to see what reaction he gets from upstairs. And I think that's the other thing at football clubs nowadays for managers is you've got to manage the team, but you've got to manage upwards as well. That's all part and parcel of it. And I know that Fergie said many, many years ago to anybody who would listen that was managing in the Premier League, he was saying to them, when you do your press conference on the day before a game, he said, that's when you get out what you want to get out. He said, because that's your big chance. Somebody asks you the question. So, and, it's not just getting your team to play every week and win games. It's the whole shebang in terms of dealing with everybody. I mean, God, these fellas must be so harassed all the time because somebody wants a piece of them.
Well, listen, Mark, I hope you enjoy however long you're in Mallorca, and we'll see you again real soon. Cheers.
Yeah, I'm back Friday. There's no peace for the wicked.
There you go. Nice one. Congratulations on a great career, by the way, too.
Thank you.
It's Mark Lawrenson giving us the sauce this morning. What do you feel about Arsenal? You're the opposite of a lucky charm. You go and they get absolutely annihilated in the derby.
Does anybody think that they're going to get 3 points tonight?
At Newcastle.
I would look. I'll be straight up, Jar. I'll go full Kevin Keegan here. I'd absolutely love it. I would love it if Tottenham didn't get top four at this point. It would be so unbelievably funny if after last Thursday night Tottenham actually didn't get top four after the poxy penalty they got yesterday, that they didn't get top four. It wouldn't. Like, you have to accept that would be hilarious. That would be way funnier than Arsenal's implosion. And I accept that. I accept that Arsenal imploding is funny for people that aren't me. But
they were rubbish, and they have got really good since they made big changes in the middle of the season. So it's not. I don't expect, if Conte manages to get them top four, that's a great achievement. Whereas Arteta should really have this team nicely, safely tucked up, snuggled underneath the Champions League blanket for next season.
Yeah, but that's a different conversation entirely. I'm talking about the comedy of the last couple of days, that Tottenham looked like such a superior team to Arsenal, and rubbed it in Arsenal's faces. Arsenal are bottlers or chokers. They let the occasion get to them, and it would just be so funny if Arsenal still finished ahead of them.
Okay, I see the Arsenal fan narrative has overtaken you. That's fine. It should. So you don't think?
No, what's the narrative? What's the narrative you actually want to?
Well, the truth is, it's still Arsenal's. Arsenal just have to go to Newcastle and win.
Yeah, I'm not sure they will, though.
It's in their hands.
Yeah, I think that there's like a significant amount of psychological damage that's been done on last Thursday night, to be honest. So I don't actually expect them to do it.
What will happen tonight?
I think it'll be a draw, 1-1 draw.
Okay. And that'll be curtains then.
Unless Tottenham somehow don't win against Norwich in the final day of the season.
Yeah, which is going to happen. There's still is a Chelsea free fall? Is it impossible? Chelsea Leicester. That's on Wednesday night.
Yeah, no, I think if Arsenal are going to catch Chelsea, they'll have caught Spurs as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can hope for Chelsea at this point. But Tottenham maybe could potentially catch
Chelsea Watford on the last day of the season, which is going to be pretty easy.
Watford now,
The London Times have the story that Andreas Christensen asked not to play in the FA Cup final.
Right.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, that's... And what's the...
Because he's leaving. He's on his way out. He said he made himself unavailable.
Interesting. Werner also unavailable. He was unfit according to Tuchel.
He left the team hotel before the game. Members of the Chelsea squad are believed to have been surprised and confused. He's only 26. He's been at the club since 2012. Joined from Bromby's academy. And that was it. It was like, no, I'm not playing the FA Cup final. Like, why not? At that stage, it can't be fear of injury, can it?
No, I don't know what it is. I don't know what Andreas Christensen is thinking. He obviously wouldn't have been in there. Maybe their very first choice 11 for a lot of the season. There's obviously a departure coming in the heart of their defence over the next little while, like with Rudiger out the door. It was interesting listening to Rudiger actually on Saturday saying that there's maybe a chance for him to stay at the club if it wasn't for sanctions on Chelsea Football Club, which is pretty hilarious.